What's up, Cart Masters? Nightside back with another video. For the next round of weapon trailers, we'll be breaking down the Charge Blade, Gunlance, and Bow weapon teasers. As always, don't forget to drop a like, comment about what you feel about the weapons we covered, and smash that subscribe button and bell icon to find out the next time I post. Let's get to it. Showing off the Master Rank Magnum Mallow set, the Charge Blade introduces the new Silkbind attack, Ready Stance, which swaps with counter peak performance, and the switch skill File Follow-Up Firing Pin, which is the alternative form of File Follow-Up. Ready Stance is very similar to counter peak performance, but according to the website, the sword and axe are bound together with Iron Silk, and when guarding, the heavy knockback leaves the hunter in sword mode, lowering the guard reaction to be able to chain sword or axe attacks. Important to note, it looks like your options here are to either go into Return Stroke, which follows up into Spinning Slash, or you can go into Elemental Discharge 1. What this basically does now is it forces you to be aware of what attacks to use based on which Silkbind you use. With counter peak performance, you want to make sure you get Condensed Elemental Slash off while recharging your files, but with Readiness, your stronger option is to go into Elemental Discharge. It also looks like Axe Boost mode will determine whether or not you use Elemental Discharge 1 or 2. It may also be possible that we get a bit of super armor after successfully guard pointing with Readiness, as you can see how the hunter super armors through the Gauss Harag's attack during the super, unless there's something that I'm potentially missing. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Next up, we've got the Firing Pin, a mechanism that lowers the pressure of elemental energy through shield thrust during elemental boost or by sword attacks while in sword boost mode. In the regular form, the elemental energy or stun file basically activates right away, but with a firing pin, the energy builds on the target, which disappears over time but can be detonated by any axe attack and actually extends the time limit of elemental boost. The end combo displayed kicks off with counter peak performance to condense element slash, followed by the spinning slash into a back roll, and very important, the axe morph attack. Backward swap evade into a dash slam, elemental discharge 2 to ready stance, and finally into the elemental discharge 2, finishing off with the super amped elemental discharge. The most important thing about this all, while the hunter was in sword boost mode, it used the morph axe attack and then skill swap, which actually seems to have transferred the sword boost into the axe boost, hence why we see the multiple hits. This is super freaking awesome. Now you can go absolutely ham and not have to worry about charging up the axe. Now you can just do it from Condensed Element Slash. Next up, in what seems to be the Magma Almudron set, we've got the Gunlance introducing the Silkbind Bullet Barrage, which swaps with Ground Splitter, and the switch skill Erupting Cannon, which swaps with Wormstake Cannon. According to the website, the Bullet Barrage uses the Wire Bug to blast dash towards a target and then unleashes everything with Abandon. It'll also automatically reload shells, Wormstake Cannon, and Wyvern's Fire before performing the attack. If everything is loaded, the attack will activate much quicker. We can see that there are multiple hits here, but the question is if it expends shells. The really cool thing is that you can literally pop off a Wyvern's Fire, use the Bullet Barrage to reload your Wyvern's Fire, and then pop off another Wyvern's Fire. It's a pretty neat gap closer, but the biggest question I have with this one is whether or not the reloading animation might count as a guard point, as the shield seems to be deliberately thrusted in front of the hunter. Next up, we've got the Erupting Cannon, which involves firing an exploding stake into the monster. When fired, the tip of the Gunlance heats up with blue flames, which makes it so that slashing attacks become enhanced for a certain period of time. The question here is whether or not this will stack with the shelling buff you get from Ground Splitter. The video ends with a blast dash into a jumping smash, burst fire, eruption shot, thrust and rising slash to the overhead slam, swap evade, and finishes off with a bullet barrage to close the gap and flinch the monster. Very excited to see what kind of crazy aggressive plays we'll get in the final version of the game. Last but certainly not least, we've got the bow in full Shogun Sianitar armor, which introduces the Silkbind Butcher's Bind, which swaps with aerial aim, and the switch skill Stake Thrust, which swaps with the melee attack. With the Butcher's Bind, the hunter wraps an arrow with Iron Silk, and if a follow-up arrow lands in the same spot where the first arrow is lodged, the Iron Silk wraps around both arrows and inflicts cutting damage. If the second arrow is off target, however, the lodged arrow will disappear. Now, this is absolutely crazy because the bow can actually deal cutting damage, which means that they can also cut tails, as demonstrated in the clip right here. Next up, we've got the stake thrust, where the hunter dashes forward and thrusts an explosive stake into the target. The stake will react to any follow-up attack that lands on the stake, which deals extra damage. The amount of that extra damage is determined by which type of arrow is being used, or I'm assuming what coating is being used. Now, this is absolutely crazy. The end combos kick off with a charging sidestep, rushing in with a stake thrust, charge sidestep again, but into the butcher's bind on the head, swap evade into the aerial aim, landing all those shots on the head of the Enginoth, knocking it the crap out. Look at how many hits procced on the head. The butcher's bind can absolutely stack with the stake thrust. I cannot wait to see how the rest of the coatings will react with stake thrust. And that just about wraps up the video. Each weapon continues to get crazier and more powerful in Sunbreak that I cannot wait to rip my hands into the game. We have 4 weapons left, so we might get everything in one day or get 2 each across 2 different days. Either way, you best bet I'll be there to break them down and into these little digest videos. Don't forget, you can catch me on Twitch live for a variety of content, including Apex Legends, Elden Ring, and of course, Monster Hunter. That's it for me, Card Masters. As always, get mad, get sad, have fun, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Yo, can we get a shout out for Sparkle Wolfie? She's another fantastic streamer. If you get... Oh! Let's fucking go, dude! Oh my. Oh my. Oh my god! Let's freaking go! Let's freaking go, dude!